So again, I want to welcome everybody to our LabStats webinar on our new remote computer access tool. We know you guys are really busy, and so we appreciate you taking time this morning to meet with us and learn a little bit more about the tool. Our hopes are that it's something that can help you guys out, make your lives easier, and provide the necessary resources that your students need. I want to lay just a little bit of framework really quick at the beginning of this for you. Um, what I'm going to do is go through and demonstrate our demo remote access tool for you guys. I'm going to show you a couple of other dashboards that we've stood up for other schools and some possibilities that are really common that people are using. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A section. We have a couple of moderators that will be addressing those questions. And my presentation won't take super long, so we'll have plenty of time at the end to answer questions. And if for any reason we aren't able to answer those questions live, we will definitely get those answers out to you guys after the presentation and make this recording available as soon as it's available. So again, please put your questions in the Q&A so that we can make sure that we address those efficiently. Um, our development team created this tool a couple of weeks ago for our LabStats customers. It's something that's been working really well for folks. We don't have a ton of history. As you guys know, we're in a new period of learning and how we're having to adjust. So we've got about 2 weeks worth of history and data on this. We've actually stood up or created over 100 dashboards. We're at 119 right now as far as helping schools across the world be able to set those up. One of the first questions about this is how much does this tool cost? And it is free to any LabStats customers. It is part of your service. There is no cost. It is a feature within your core LabStats product that is available for you. So there's no cost to you guys. We do most of the heavy lifting and setup on this for you. If for any reason you guys, anybody on here is not a LabStats customer, that's no problem. We'll make sure that we get you contact information and get you connected with the correct rep, whether it's domestic or international. Tyler's our domestic rep that helps all the schools in the U.S. And Ben is one of our account executives that handles our international customers. So at the very end of this, we'll show you a slide with ways to get a hold of either me if you're an existing customer, Tyler if you're in the US, or Ben if you're outside of the US. Having said that, my moderators are going to get real mad, but I'm just going to answer two burning questions for you guys right now. Being based here in lovely state of Idaho, we don't have any potatoes or toilet paper either, so I just want please don't ask about that. We're fighting for that stuff just like you guys are. And then the last one is I'm just going to stick with Jake from State Farm and say I'm wearing khakis. So I don't want there to be any questions about that. It's khakis, folks. Um, Here in this downtown university remote computer access, this is our demo dashboard. And basically, we create a link for you with the thought process that you will either embed this in your school website, push a mass communication out to the students and staff that you want to have this, or social media, whatever works that way for you. This tool uses the new LabStats API, which is pretty cool. And you can actually, it pulls from two different things. It pulls from the groups that you've got created in your core LabStats product. So you can actually display as few or as many workspaces or labs that you need to. We've got many schools that are making all of their labs and workspaces available. We've got other schools that are starting out a little bit more slowly, kind of based on need, and addressing some of those labs that have some of that specialized software in it. Um, I hear a lot about engineering labs with some of the CAD products and applications. The other one is our business labs. If you've got a Bloomberg terminal somewhere, chances are students aren't going to have hardware meaty enough to run that application. So being able to make these resources available to our students and staff is going to be mission critical as we continue through our current times right now. So you can select which labs that you would like to display here. One of my favorite parts about this that I think is super slick is that this will pull real-time availability for you. So the children's library, the example that I give here is this lab has 20 machines in it. So right now we can assume that 17 people are logged in. Why this is so slick is that students aren't having to click through the 20 machines to try and find an available machine to remote into. They can go and choose specifically which machine they want to connect to. What we kind of forecasted and predicted, and so far in our 2 weeks or 10 days or so of using this tool and listening to schools and what they're reporting back to us, is that students are going to just naturally gravitate to those labs or spaces that they would normally use if they're physically on campus. So if you're an engineering student and you're looking for a particular piece of software and you know that's in the interactive lab, you're going to go there and try and connect to a machine there. What happens when you hit the connect button is it prompts you to download however you guys set up that remote connection. And I'm going to get to that in just a minute here. So I want to kind of show you guys what that looks like. Um, Gives you this message here. If we click connect on that, it's going to pop up and it's going to give me another error message. And it's going to indicate that it won't let me connect to these machines or access these machines because I'm not part of the domain or the network. So there's a little bit of security that's built in there for you guys as well. Couple of the other dashboards that I like to bring up and show different examples about are the first one is Minnesota State University Mankato. If anybody's there listening, I think this is fantastic for you. This is something that's actually pretty new. We're actively developing against this app, but we do have a way to help you remote into your any Mac labs that you've got using a VNC type connection. And again, we'll get into that a little bit more. The reason that I bring this up and show this one is they've actually added a piece of security, which is something that comes up a lot as far as the questions that you guys will have and how this tool is going to work. And they're actually using an RDP connection and they've created a gateway. So what we know so far is Microsoft Remote Desktop works really well. We have a lot of schools using that. You can add a gateway to that to sort of funnel in and add an extra layer of security so just students and staff can access those resources. We have a lot of schools that are using VPN, and we know that works really well. And then there's a mix of schools that are using both RDP and VPN. So that's something that works well as well. We have a handful of schools that are using a service by Apache called Guacamole, and we actually know that works really well as well. So you have a couple of different ways that you could potentially on your end set this up as far as your remote desktop connection or how you're going to have students or staff connect in there. So kind of keep that in mind. And I'll address some additional information on that as well. Um, I want to mention this point that um, in the header here, this will be the name of your school or university for you. And then there's some room to add instructions or guidelines for you to make this end user experience a little easier. So if you're using a VPN, for instance, and the students need to log into that VPN first before they can remote in, you can add those type of instructions here. I've seen schools put schedules in there. And again, that doesn't necessarily allow for reservation or anything like that, but you can give some guidelines and information about specific labs up here in this um, header section for you. Another one that I really like that we just recently created is one for one of our Australian schools, University of Canberra. And again, they're using a remote desktop connection with a gateway, but they actually put together a list of their software and they submitted that to our development team. And so our dev team was able to add that link right into their header there. So this tells you specifically where software is. So if you're looking for a particular application, if we're looking for MATLAB, we can see that that's in all PCs. PC labs, so we don't have any available machine we could use to access that. Some of these other applications, if we were looking for Rhino, we've got to go to one of these particular labs and we can jump back over there and go to navigate to that lab and find an available machine. So that's really slick as well. what we do, kind of jumping back in here, is we do all the heavy lifting on the LabStat side of this for you. Essentially, we need to know how you guys are going to allow students to remote in, whether that's an RDP connection, a VPN connection, combination, whatever the case may be. And we really need the list of your groups so that we can put this dashboard together for you. The form to request this is right here. We will make sure that you guys all have this link and access to this tool. It's very straightforward. It is your contact information, whether you're a customer or not, whether you are using a cloud version or on-prem of the LabStats core product, what kind of connection you're going to have there, if you're going to offer Macs, and then you can put any instructions or guidelines in here. Our dev team has been working round the clock. Their wives keep asking for like proof of life, and we just keep sliding fruit snacks underneath the door. We don't dare send pictures of them chained to the desk. So um, they've been absolutely phenomenal in working with teams to set this up and make it work for your environment. And that's the one thing, although we're all facing some of these challenges, everybody's environment is so unique. Please don't give up on this tool. um, when you submit this form, you're assigned a developer that will work with you to put your dashboard together. And the best way to put this together efficiently is to excuse me, guys, communicate back and forth in that email thread so that we can efficiently make changes, add groups, remove groups for you, put instructions in your header for you, anything like that. Your developer is going to be your prime source of information and help on that. So please don't rule this tool out for you. And it may be something that you don't need essentially or necessarily right this moment, but you can set it up and for some specialized labs and test it out. And we're happy to help you guys with that as well. We do offer, for any customers out there that are using an on-premise version of LabStats, the same tool for our on-premise customers. And it looks just slightly different. It gives them instructions on how to remote in. And one of the questions I'm always asked is, do we have to display the IP address? And the answer is no. You can actually send us whatever information, a computer name, station name, whatever we want to display there in order to help those students connect. So we can set it up for on-premise customers as well. There are a few more instructions for the on-premise section. Anybody that has that solution right now, please reach out to me. Again, we'll display that information in just a few minutes here. As far as documentation goes, well, shoot, my page isn't loaded. We have our frequently asked questions, which is our primary source of documentation right now. And this has got a bunch of great questions and content in there that will really help you guys out. So again, we will make sure that you have a link to this frequently asked questions as well. One of the questions that I get all the time is, can this tool be used for students that are using a Mac as their personal device? And the answer is yes. They just have to go to the Mac App Store and download the Microsoft Remote Desktop first. So, Mike, I'm getting to the point where I'm going to have you share that slide with everybody's contact information. Again, everybody, please put your questions in the Q&A. One of our moderators is going to jump on here and ask some questions, and we'll make sure that we answer those. Again, Tyler Jacobson is our domestic rep if you're not a current LabStats customer. If you're an international customer or needing help with that, Ben is our contact there, and you can get a hold of us at those email addresses there. We're happy to help you. Ultimately, our, we're here to serve you. So we want to make sure that we're doing something that will make your lives easier, make the available resources available to students and staff as they need to. And then I just want to thank you guys again for taking time to meet with us on this webinar. I know that you guys have been put through the ringer, and we appreciate everything that you guys are going through and what you're doing for your students. So we're really grateful for all that you guys do. And again, for taking time with us today. I just want to reiterate one last point, and then I'll address questions. If you're an existing customer There is no cost. So I get all the time, probably 10 times a day, a lab manager will get the green light to go ahead and set this dashboard up for your school. They'll put it together, and then suddenly the CIO or CFO wants to know if there's going to be cost or if we plan to charge for this. We are not trying to profit off pandemic. We are simply trying to serve you guys, your teams, and your staffs and your students. So this is a tool that is included in your core LabStats product. There is no intention of charging for that. So with that, I'll open it up and just ask my moderator. I believe that's going to be Brett this morning to share some of those questions that have come through for us.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, we've got a few questions in Q&A, and before I read those, I just want to remind the attendees that we have some links posted in chat that you can navigate, whether you're a customer or non-customer. There's a link to the sign-up form and our FAQ page posted in the webinar chat. So I have a question from Alan Saylor. He says, I am not a customer. I'm located in Tifton, Georgia. Do you offer a trial?
Great question, Alan, and reach out to Tyler. That's something we can definitely work with you and your team on. Absolutely. So get a hold of Tyler, shoot him an email, make sure he has a phone number where he can reach you, and we'd be happy to work with you. He's fantastic. Both him and Ben are great at what they do, and we'd be happy to help you, Alan.
All right, I've got another question. This one is for, I apologize if I butcher your name, Andre Gerasenkov, and he asks, does this require a LabStats client installed on every lab machine?
That's a great question, Andre. And again, I apologize if we're butchering your name. The machines that you want to make available on the dashboard tool for students to connect to must have a LabStats client on it. The student part, the student side of it doesn't, but anything you want to display in your dashboard has got to be in your core LabStats product. It's got to have a client on it. Yep.
Okay, I've got another one. This one is from Michael Gian, and he asks, could you show how remote access to Mac works?
I don't, let's see if we've got some instructions on this, Michael. So this is, again, I'm kind of taking advantage of Minnesota State University Mankato's tool, and this has actually been put in overnight. So literally our devs are working on this all the time because this wasn't here yesterday when I left it yesterday evening. So they've given instructions on how to log into that, and I think everybody's doing it a little bit differently. Um, I don't have a great screenshot of that right now, but I can, if you'll reach out to me, just shoot me a quick email, Michael. My devs have a screenshot that I didn't even think of putting together for this presentation, but I can get you some additional information on that. If you'll shoot me an email after this, I'd be happy to follow up on that.
So we have one, and it looks like Tyler, our account executive, typed an answer to this one as well, but just for the sake of attendees, I'll ask this one to you, to Schofield. An anonymous attendee asks, can you lock students down to a particular group?
Oh, that's a great question. I love it. Whoever said that or asked that question, that's fantastic. So I skipped over that part, and brings up some interesting ideas. So we can actually create multiple dashboards for your team as you need. So I have a school that has created two dashboards, one for their staff to be able to connect to staff machines and access the resources they need, and one for students. So that's an option. I have a couple of schools that have created multiple dashboards. The one in particular that I'm thinking about, they created a dashboard just for their kind of science, engineering and architectural labs. And so what they've done with that is they just put their groups with that CAD software in there. And then another way to kind of add some security to this is you could potentially post this right on your school web page. The flip side of that is you can create a link that requires students and staff to log in using their school credentials, their username and password before they can even see the link. And so what this school has done is they've put this engineering dashboard on the engineering page, and engineering students have to log in before they can even see it. The same schools created one for their business lab. I've got a Washington school that has multiple campuses, and so we've actually created individual dashboards for each campus, even though they have one instance kind of thing or multiple instances. So sky's the limit really on how we can put this together. And really the best thing to do is when you complete the request form is to put notes in there about, hey, this is the direction that we want to go, and just partner real well with your developer. They're fantastic folks. I couldn't ask for a better team, and they will really help you out or point you in the right direction. Some of that stuff may come to me, and I can address it and take care of it, and a lot of it they'll be able to help you with on the back end. So that's a great question. Thank you.
Okay, so I've got two very similar questions. I'll just
Okay.
read them both to you. From Mary Corngay, she asks, would the client machines have to be powered up if they're asleep or hibernating? Can they be accessed? And similarly, Deborah Adam asks, how do you handle machines that are asleep?
Um, so as long as you could remote in, I would think that you could wake that up. The machines do have to be powered on in order for students to remote into them. So I don't know. I know each school's doing it a little bit differently, either through like group policy. I know is a way that a lot of folks are doing that, either to wake on LAN. There's a number of different things to potentially help you with that issue, and that's something that I know we can get a better answer with our developers. And so if you're interested in putting this together, Deborah or Mary, please reach out to me and let me know, and I can help facilitate some additional answers for those questions.
So I've got another one from Andre Garasankov. He asks, do you provide customers with control over the dashboards, or do they have to reach out to you every time a change is needed?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. So the answer is yes and no. Any changes to the groups that you want to make just require an email to us. Once we actually put this initial dashboard together for you, making changes is really easy for us. There is a way for you guys to have some control over what machines show up in there. I've got some schools that have created new groups, whether it's a holding group to move some machines out and so they're not available to students, and vice versa, creating some new groups to potentially move stations into. So you can adjust those stations and which stations appear in the groups in your core LabStats product. But changing the groups and stuff right now, that's something that goes through us. And the turnaround time on that once the initial dashboard is up is very quickly for you. Ultimately, we want this to be in the core product, but just because of the timeliness and everybody moving to alternative learning, online learning, distance learning, whatever we're calling it, we're just trying to get these resources up and available to students and staff right now. That's our primary focus. And then as things start to slow down, and we've helped everybody that needs it, I know that that's something that Trevor, our lead developer, is very keen on putting in the core product for you. So that'll be coming in the future. So you guys will have complete control over this.
So I've got a question. We have a few questions. The first one was from an anonymous attendee, asks, does this remote access support SAML and MFA?
No. I can get you some additional information on if you want to email me that question as well. I've got an answer. Let me see if I can find it. If you want to go to just give me 2 seconds here and let me see. Um, Nope, I don't have it readily available. I can get you an additional information. If you want to send me an email directly outside of this webinar, I'd be happy to address that for you and give you some specific information about that.
Okay, so Amy Leader asks, can you get granular on the access groups? Meaning, can we have multiple student groups that can access different computer pools? We have multiple campuses, and we would like to say Sellersburg students should access only Sellersburg computers. Thanks.
Yes, absolutely. And the best way to do that would be, again, we can coordinate that with you, but it sounds like the best way to do that would be to create or set up multiple dashboards so that you can kind of drive or funnel students to the resources that you want. That's a great question, and we have a lot of schools doing that. So, absolutely.
We have multiple questions from Tom T. He asked about SAML and MFA, which you discussed.
I have a quick answer on that, Brett. Sorry.
Sure.
Um, it- the remote desktop tool doesn't support it because it doesn't have authentication support. So that's something that we're looking at. We don't know if it'll be in the product or not moving forward, but right now it doesn't have authentication support. So we can't work with, or it doesn't work with SAML right now.
And then he goes on to ask, if a user is on a PC, does it show that PC as unavailable to keep two users from trying to connect to the same PC?
So this one's a trick question. So if Mike, can I share my screen again? I'm going to steal control back. I'm sorry. Um, can you guys, Brett, can you see Minnesota State University here?
Not yet. It still
Okay.
shows the contact
Okay.
information.
If I can get access, my, okay, perfect. Thank you. Um, 1 second here, guys, and I'll show you this. Uh, it's still not letting me. Um, can you make me host, Mike, please? Or stop sharing. Yeah, sorry guys. Okay, perfect. I think that's gonna let me. So in answer to that question, it's only going to show on your dashboard the available machines. So if a student logs off a machine in the children's library, for example, it's going to show 4 machines available. So students, they're not going to be able to try and connect into the same machine at the same time. So if somebody's logged into the station's going to go away. If as soon as they log off, the station will be available for you. On the flip side of that, in full transparency, students could potentially, if you had somebody physically on campus, for instance, in that lab, and they were trying to access that machine while somebody was remoting in, it could give them the pop-up or that they were trying to join, or could kick somebody off. But in the actual dashboard, it's only going to show you the available machines. And this is live and in real time. So when somebody does sign off, it makes that machine they were on available again for you.
So I have two questions that are somewhat similar, so I'll ask them both. The first one comes from Tom T. He asks, does your product feature an option to automatically log out a user when an RDP session is disconnected? And then similar to that, Jason Audi asks, how do you prevent a student from logging into a station and tying it up to prevent others from using it? We have students that won't log out of a station when they leave the physical lab.
Amen, right? Like I think we all kind of face that on our campus in one way or another. Um, right now, I don't know that there's a perfect solution for that. My recommendation is kind of a workaround. There are some alerts in your core product that if you haven't seen, it bears looking at. You can set up some of your alerts in the core product to get notification when a session lasts a certain length, couple of different alerts that will give you guys that information. And then right now, folks that are doing this and have most of their labs displayed or workspaces are using group policy to sort of force those users off. The other example is there are some spaces that where faculty or staff might want to use that workstation or workspace for instruction. And so that would be a good place to put some of those guidelines up here in the your header here to indicate that, hey, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, there's an engineering 208 or whatever the class is. So there won't be any machines available in this lab from whatever that time is. So there's the opportunity to add those things in. and I know that we're working on some additional capabilities, but my best answer would be using a couple of different resources, and probably through group policy of some sort would be the way to force them off after you get the alert from your LabStats tool.
So Tyler, our account executive, uh, provided a little bit more context. I want to read some of the answers he's written into the chat here, just for the audience. Tyler writes, there are options for auto logout. Our development group can work with you for more information and configurations. And then in response to a similar question, Tyler offered, if someone attempts to connect to a computer that is already in use, the results depend on your RDP configuration. Our development group will work with you for RDP configuration questions. We have found that a best practice is to make sure remote users go to the remote console each time they log in, which will assure that they are accessing a computer that is currently available.
I told you guys he was good. That Tyler's awesome.
So I'm looking, might just pull one or two more questions for this group. Paul Cook asks, can you put the agent on a virtual machine and connect to it?
Yep, absolutely. I would say that we have a fair amount of schools that are doing that right now. Again, part of Tyler's answer is the right way to do that. When you complete this form, just indicate to the developer in here in the instructions that maybe you have a group of physical machines as well as some virtual machines. Please just indicate that here. And again, like Tyler said, the developer assigned to your dashboard, just partnering with them, they'll take good care of you and work to help you guys through whatever your environment looks like to help try and get this tool up and running for you.
And then one last question. Before I answer this one, though, just another reminder to those watching, we just reposted those contact links in the Zoom webinar chat. So please look there if you're looking to navigate to this information or get a hold of one of the members of our team. A question from Omar Danta, he asks, does this dashboard allow an administrator to kick off users if the lab is needed for an online class?
Again, part of Tyler's answer and working with our dev, for the auto log out group policy to force them out. And again, if you're going to do something like that for a potential class, Omar, I would recommend, or what I've seen other schools do, is just put some information in here. So this header can be, you can have some pretty lengthy or some valuable information, whether it's to help students connect more effectively or to explain that, hey, this space isn't going to be available certain times because of class. So if you have a session going, you will be logged out. Please make sure you're cognizant of that so that everybody has a good end user experience, both the folks in that upcoming class and the user that's currently signed into that station.
So there are a few other questions in the webinar chat that we weren't able to get to. And also Todd McNeese had a question about being put in touch with a university that is using the tool to discuss their experiences. And for those questions, I'll say we'll have members of the team reach back out to you and follow up with you about those. So if we didn't get to your question today on the webinar, we apologize and we'll be sure to follow up directly with you about that.
And just real quickly to kind of echo what Brett's talking about, again, I want to thank you guys for taking time out of your day and know that you're super busy trying to make magic happen on your end. Please don't be shy. That's the biggest thing about this is I can't believe how great our education community has been to work with one another. And really that's what we want to do for you guys is be a good partner and serve you well. So please don't be shy. Ask us questions, get in touch with us. We're happy to help. Some of the other universities have been very forthcoming and very kind in sharing information about their experience and how they've put theirs together. So there's some opportunity there as well. Send me an email. If your phone numbers are changing, or you're working from home and your school number doesn't work, please send us a number as well, so that sometimes a quick phone call will save us all a lot of time. So please reach out to us. Don't be shy. We'd love to help you if this is something that makes sense for you. Again, thank you so much to everybody that attended. Brett for kind of overseeing everything. Tyler for being great in the chat. Ben's just as wonderful. So anybody that's signed in internationally, please reach out to him and we'll take good care of you guys. Appreciate your time. Thank you.